Hello everyone! In this video I'll share my experience traveling to Madeira, the Portuguese island in the Atlantic Ocean. I'll show you its capital Funchal, talk about the climate and landscape features, highlight some of the main attractions and give you tips on how to get prepared for your trip. So here is the basic info about the island. Madeira is located 520 kilometers from the African coast and 1000 kilometers from mainland Europe, or about 1 hour and a half flight from Lisbon, Portugal's capital. The island is the largest in the archipelago, covering 741 square kilometers, with a length of 57 kilometers and a width of 22 kilometers. Historically, the subtropical forests of Monteverde were covering the entire island. The name Madeira means wood in Portuguese. But the Portuguese who landed here destroyed the forests to make way for agricultural plantations. Therefore, there are almost no forests left in the southern part of the island. But in the northern valleys, there are still some of the Monteverde forests, which are recognized now as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Now the forests cover about 16% of the island of Madeira and continue to recover. A few words about the climate of the island. Madeira has a subtropical Mediterranean climate, one of the mildest in the world, with a temperature difference between winter and summer of no more than 7 degrees Celsius. In the coldest month, January, temperatures range from 13 to 20 degrees, while in the warmest month, September, they range from 18 to 26 degrees. Locals say the climate is so fortunate that their homes don't need heating in winter or cooling in summer. Rainfall is uneven throughout the year. Over half falls between November and February, while from May to July rain is rare. The mountainous terrain creates a variety of microclimates. The northwest is the most humid and cloudy part of the island, while the south near Funchal is much drier. It's quite windy here, but the southern part of the island where Funchal is located is more sheltered from the wind. Due to strong winds, Madeira's runway is considered one of the most challenging in the world. Planes sometimes circle multiple times before landing or even end up landing on the neighboring island, or fail to take off on the first try, which actually happened to us. But don't worry, pilots on this destination are real professionals, as they undergo special training for these conditions. Thanks to the winds and waves, the island is a real paradise for surfers, windsurfers, kitesurfers, and other kinds of surfers, both beginners and pros. Same as Canary Islands I told about earlier, here Madeira is the summit of a massive volcano, rising about 6 kilometers above the Atlantic Ocean floor. That means you'll find volcanic beaches, cliffs, and diverse terrain. When it comes to sightseeing, most visitors come here for the stunning nature: mountains, numerous waterfalls, ancient forests, steep cliffs, beaches, and the ocean. As usual, unfortunately, we didn't plan our trip very well and had to improvise on the go, so we didn't see as much as we'd hoped. It's especially frustrating because Madeira doesn't feel like a place you can visit every month. For sure, it's a special destination. Getting to Madeira can be a bit of a challenge. There are few direct flights, usually with long connections in Lisbon, and tickets tend to be expensive. The flights can also be a bit unpredictable and scary sometimes, which might make you feel hesitant, but don't let that discourage you. If you're planning a trip, learn from our mistakes. Plan everything in advance so you don't waste time. For example, if you want to visit the stunningly beautiful and famous mountain peaks of the island, such as its highest point, Pico Ruivo, or Pico das Torres, or Pico do Areiro, and hike along the well known trails connecting them, you should know in advance that it's a real hiking with a medium and sometimes even above medium difficulty level. Expect to cover about 5-7 kilometers of ascents and descents. Most of the journey you will definitely need to be on foot, as you can't reach all the trails by car. So for these excursions you'll need appropriate clothing and footwear. Since some paths are quite wild, it might be muddy, wet, slippery, dangerous, and also cold and damp. Many tourists at our hotel for such hikes were wearing trekking boots and waterproof, windproof jackets and pants. That's the way. Generally, on any excursions here, you should be prepared for any weather conditions. You don't want to get soaked or freeze or end up sitting in a bus or a car all day just because it's raining and missing out on the sights. We unfortunately were completely unprepared for these hikes, mentally, in terms of booking excursions, and without clothing. Luckily, we had sneakers, jeans, and hooded jackets, but even so, we were totally unready for the weather and even for the simpler excursions. For example, I got drenched almost at the very first attraction, so I had to spend the rest of the tour drying off and shivering. So, life is a continuous learning process. You also need to honestly assess whether you're ready to hike independently or it's better to hire a professional guide, which I sincerely recommend. In that case, it's best to book these tours in advance, since they don't happen every day, only a couple of times a week, and last minute bookings might not have availability for the nearest dates. In short, we didn't make it to the mountain peaks. It's a real shame. What we managed to see in our 3 days is Funchal, the island's capital. We stayed there, like most tourists, at the budget guest house, Villa Lusitania. You can check out our review of it here. Ride the cable car connecting Funchal's promenade with the Monte district. It's over 3 kilometers long with a climb up to 560 meters and takes about 15 minutes one way. The views of the city and coast are breathtaking. You definitely won't regret it. You can take a round trip ticket or go most of the way down by sled. Yes, you heard it right, a toboggan sled on asphalt. This tradition dates back to the 19th century. Two men take tourists in a wicker basket with wooden skids down a 2-kilometer slope. You'll have to wait in line for a while to buy a ticket. Originally, this was used to transport fruits and vegetables from mountain gardens, but later it became a leisure activity for the aristocracy. Now sleds go down the mountain from where the botanical and tropical gardens are located. It's a smooth ride with a speed about 15 kilometers per hour, but can reach up to 30 kilometers per hour. For lunch or dinner, try local restaurants like Real Mar, Tapasol, or The Top at Cabo Girão. I recommend all three. The city is located on the coast with a charming promenade, perfect for a stroll. There are parks with fountains and swans and many cafes. Also, we bought tickets for the famous hop on hop off bus to explore the main sites of the city without hustle, listening to the audio guide in our native language. We bought a ticket for the most expensive value route, which included the purple route on a regular double decker bus and an additional route on a small bus. We didn't really like it because the waiting times between buses felt too long. The schedule was unclear and the bus could just pass by its stop. So we ended up losing a lot of time waiting at bus stops and eventually decided not to get off the bus until we complete the entire route. Later, we went to the famous Cabo Girão Cape by taxi, which wasn't very expensive, and took a short ride on the local Rancho cable car down to the wild beach at its foot. Cabo Girão is the most famous cliff on the island, one of the highest in Europe and in the world. The cable car ticket cost 12 euros, cash only, and the view from the cabin was breathtaking. The line goes almost vertically. At the nearly deserted beach, we spent about an hour listening to the sound of rolling volcanic rocks and enjoying the views. After taking the cable car back up from the beach, we stopped right there near the cable car station at the restaurant The Top, which has an incredible panoramic view of the island and the endless ocean. There we got a very warm welcome, tried Madeira's famous green wine, enjoyed some nice quality tea, which is hard to find in Spain and Portugal, with delicious desserts. The meringue roll was just amazing. We felt so comfortable that we stayed there for about 4 hours. watching the weather change from sunny to stormy through the panoramic windows. Then we saw a rainbow, sunset, and finally the evening view of Madeira as it got dark and the city lights turned on. The next day, we miraculously booked a tour with the True Spirit Company. We didn't manage to go to the mountain peaks that looked so tempting in the photos, but we did see the village of Ponta de Sol with its famous volcanic rock and viewpoint overlooking the cliffs and waterfall. We did an off road ride across the entire island from north to south. We saw the only flat area on the island, the Pol de Serra Plateau. We visited the huge crater of an extinct volcano, the mystical Fanal ancient forest, the Ribeira de Janela village, the village of Seixal with its famous waterfall, the viewpoint of Veu da Noiva, the town of Porto Moniz with its natural pools, and the famous Skywalk viewpoint at Cabo Girão. Unfortunately, the weather wasn't very kind to us. During the first half of the tour, we drove with minimal stops, mostly in the car because it was raining. The roof of our Land Rover Defender was closed. The landscapes were impressive but a bit gloomy. The ocean looked moody and many of us got drenched, but in the end, we still really enjoyed it. Our first stop was Ponta de Sol, where we strolled along the pier with its beautiful stone arch bridge, enjoying views of the ocean, the village, cliffs, and the waterfall. If you're lucky enough with the weather, it's even more beautiful in the sunshine. There is also a restaurant with a panoramic view. Then we crossed the entire island on the Royal Road. It was incredible. We drove in the rain, sometimes through fog, over huge muddy puddles, through fragrant eucalyptus groves, and even off road on steep slopes. It was a bit scary at times, but our driver was very confident, so we just trusted him and enjoyed the thrill. After the wild off road adventure, we reached the asphalt roads of the island's plateau. A peaceful spot on this volcanic island. From there, you can look into the huge crater of an extinct volcano. But the most of us, myself included, didn't even want to get out of the car because of the rain and fog. They say that at some point there were plans to build an airport here, since it's the only flat area on the island. However, the winds here are not suitable for an airport, and it's often foggy, so in the end, they didn't. Our next stop was the enchanted Fanal forest, and again, due to the heavy rain, I only managed about 5-7 minutes outside, even though it was incredibly beautiful and some of us enjoyed the forest, but I got drenched and had to run back to the car. The point I'm trying to make is that your experience on the island will depend a lot on how well you're prepared for different weather conditions. Because even in the rain and fog, it's stunningly beautiful. Don't let the weather spoil your experience. Think about your clothing and shoes, and don't be afraid of stupid rain. Fanal Forest is located high in the mountains, at 1,150 meters above the sea level, so it's often covered in mist, which adds to the mystery. Next, we visited Porto Moniz, a village in the northwest of Madeira. One of its main attractions and one of the most unique on the island is its famous natural swimming pools. Carved out of the volcanic rock filled with crystal clear seawater, they offer a truly special way to enjoy the ocean. The pools are protected from waves by natural cliffs and man made embankments. The bottoms are artificially smoothed, the entrances have steps, and there are walkways and beach areas with loungers and umbrellas, as well as showers and changing rooms. The seawater in the pools is a couple of degrees warmer than in the ocean, and the surrounding scenery is breathtaking. Swimming here is a real pleasure. Another popular spot among tourists is the Madeira Aquarium, housed in the former San Juan Batista fortress. Built in 1730, this fortress served for many years to defend against pirate attacks. The aquarium features over 70 species of fish and marine animals. The ticket for adults costs €7. Finally, Porto Moniz is located in an incredibly scenic part of the coast, with rocky cliffs, laurel forests, beautiful sunsets, and waterfalls like Veu da Noiva, the highest waterfall in Madeira, located about 10 kilometers from the village. Also in Porto Moniz there are some famous park and the Achadas da Cruz cable car, but we didn't get a chance to visit them. Later, with clear sunny weather and the roof open, we drove our Defender along insanely beautiful roads under waterfalls and visited the village of Seixal, enjoying its famous views of cliffs and waterfalls. We stopped at the Veu da Noiva viewpoint. This waterfall is the highest on the island, and this view is very popular among visitors. The romantic name Veu da Noiva means bride's veil in Portuguese. Our last stop was the Skywalk viewpoint at Cabo Girão, that very place where we previously visited the cable car on our own. Cabo Girão is a popular viewpoint visited by up to 1,800 people daily. It's the highest cliff in Europe and the second highest in the world. It's definitely a must see. The highlight of this viewpoint is that there is almost 580 meters of abyss right beneath your feet, separated only by a glass floor. This glass floor feature at Cabo Girão was added relatively recently, in 2012. Along the railing, they built a suspended bridge made of thick glass, similar to the one in the Grand Canyon. It's actually the tallest suspension bridge in Europe. The glass isn't completely transparent, it's dotted, which makes the bridge feel a little less intimidating. Some visitors find it hard to approach the railing, but trust me, the view from up there is worth the challenge. You're looking out over miles of ocean ahead, with sheer cliffs on the right and stunning panoramic views of the fishing village of Câmara de Lobos on the left. In the distance, you can even see Funchal, and on very clear days, far on the horizon, you might spot the uninhabited desertage islands. Down below, the ocean meets wild beaches and sugarcane plantations. And here is the fun fact. Those 580 meters aren't even the full height of Cabo Girão. Several hundred meters are hidden beneath the water. Thanks to the deep ocean at this part of the coast, sometimes you can even see whales from here, if you're lucky. Before visiting, check the weather forecast so that overcast skies don't spoil your experience. The best times to go are very early, around 10 a.m. or before 10 a.m., or late in the day, just before sunset, when there are less people. Weather is a key factor for visiting Cabo Girão. On foggy or rainy days, you won't see those breathtaking views. The clearer the day, the better the experience. It's also interesting to see Cabo Geral from the ocean during a boat tour. Near the parking area, there is a large souvenir market, cafes, and restrooms. That's all I wanted to share about the island. Next, as usual, there are gonna be a few more minutes of scenic views of the island and Funchal. And as always, I'll be happy to answer any questions you have. Happy travels! Bye!